We have started to record the most recent session of SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking, for the first summer session. It is Thursday, June 2nd, 2022. Today and tomorrow, we will start demonstrative speeches. Today is day one. Tomorrow, the only Friday that we meet during the summer, is going to be day two. I have a number of presentations that I'm going to show you. We will also be critiquing them, but a friendly reminder before we get started. In the student preview mode on Blackboard, where you can go to access all of these videos, because quite frankly, now that we are into the graded speaking modes on day one and day two for the final 4 weeks of the summer, all of you are going to be my content creators. As we move to Blackboard, keep in mind that everything we do will cascade in reverse chronological order. So today, session 6, demonstrative speech day 1, will be right on top. And then Friday's course session, demonstrative speech day 2, all of that will be here. If you ever want to join the class live, always keep in mind that you can join here for today or here for tomorrow. After class on Friday, I will be placing a number of class sessions up for you to join live if that's your preference. But before we take a look at what's going to be coming up for today's presentations, whenever you are accessing material from Blackboard with those videos, this is what you are going to see. And I think it's important that all of you keep in mind that video playback is such an important part of your overall improvement as a public speaker. Here is a brief look at what we were examining in yesterday's class session, which was demonstrative speech topic selection. We have started to record the most recent session of SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking, for the first summer session. It is Wednesday, June 1st, 2022. A reminder that Thursday and Friday of this week, we begin with graded demonstrative speeches. What I am going to do today is to not only, because today is listed as topic selection on the syllabus and the course itinerary, go through a number of different materials that have been used for past topics in this course, looking at some of the structure of the outlines, whether they were in Google Slides or Microsoft PowerPoint, whether they used YouTube or whether they used Loom. And then we're going to look at some more speeches. A lot of them specifically are available at my website, and also how you're going to send me material. Always double check your outbox to make certain that you have attached your speech. Is your design consistency uniform? Font size, color shading, readable? Spelling, grammar, syntax, accurate? Text image balance, comparable? In other words, you're not relying too much on bullet points and you're not relying too much on graphics. There's a nice blending of the two to keep you extemporaneous. You don't want to write down everything word for word, because then it becomes a reading exercise and you don't sound conversational. It's done from a podium during a face-to-face class. So it's not going to have any activity in the same way that you would find on Loom. The history of Chinese paper cutting, all of this is designed to remain, from delivery standpoints, as conversational and extemporaneous as you can be. Speech on putting together quality makeup, there is a slight bit of transparency on those slides, so it's easy to read the text that is above it. Same thing here. No bake Hershey pie. Duck. Teaching your dog a new trick. I showed that to you yesterday from Taylor Ivy. That's also at my YouTube channel. And in real time, uttering an an anything like that. Now let's take a look at Madison's structure and her eye contact from back to front. Right-hand corner, bottom right, upper right-hand corner. I know in my case, I would experiment with bottom left, bottom right, upper right-hand corner. But because we would turn a page basically like this if we're holding a book in our hand, more than likely, I am going to put my webcam right here in the upper right-hand portion of the screen rather
than you as a survivor to heal yourself, which can really make a killer's life much harder. And you have tons more than the ones that are shown here.
Tell by the cheese, when it's melted throughout, that's an indicator that it's done and ready. Now it's time to serve and get full. This is where I would take my bowl and crumble the Doritos.
Everyone who speaks on day 2. Build a lot of practice time into your schedule so there's not going to be any confusion about anything related to any of these items. Whether it's 11:30, 11:45, 11:55, as long as I can access them before we officially begin, and I can go, as I've been doing with all of the other speeches, access the tab, play it, go back in real time. And some of them will have the closed captioning on, sometimes it'll be off. But I always view myself as a professor with the glass half full when we're grading. Always keep that in mind. There's no such thing as perfection. There's always elements of anyone's public speaking style that needs to be improved, myself included. I am probably my own worst critic, but in a positive way. 98% of something is okay. I'm not going to stress too much about the other 2%. Even something as basic as lighting. I may not necessarily like the lighting from previous classes, so I turn them off. That's how you can experiment with your own respective speech preparations for each week. So good luck. Demonstrative speech, day 1 is tomorrow. As for SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking during the first summer session. That concludes the recording session for today. And as you can see, I am still experimenting with the lighting. I wanted to indicate before we get into our graded speeches for day 1 that when you are at Blackboard, always keep in mind some of the elements that I have talked about during the term. It's very helpful to reinforce the learning process of when you're at the website, how you can access information for any type of research, which is why video is such an important element of this course. So let's return now to the home page at Blackboard. At this point, you can access data related to the course. You can also, at the syllabus, check the itinerary, because next week, as you can see, we are going to go back to the 4-day-a-week formula, which is Monday through Thursday. The speech evaluation form, making you think very critically about quality content or delivery or visuals. Keeping in mind that is an informal checklist, but how are you improving in all of those areas? And then when you are at the syllabus, always have point allocation in the backs of your respective minds. Because when you come down to the supplemental information area of the syllabus, there is a link to my website. There is a link to my Twitter. And most importantly, electronic submission of assignments to my Yahoo address. And please make certain that you are watching the videos, because I am getting material sent to my SAU address. Very important that you follow the proper procedure, the way that I want this class to be set up. And also visualize right now the element that this is a 100-point course, 20 points for each of the speeches, 10 for the self-evaluation speech critique, 10 for class participation, which gets you to a total of 100 for the summer. So getting into the habit of knowing that this week, my demonstrative speech day 1 will be Thursday, day 2 will be Friday, and then for the informative, persuasive, and wildcard speeches, everything is day 1 Wednesday and day 2 Thursday. Occasionally, there may be some problem with you sending the speech. I know there was one person who sent me an outline, but at this point today, who was scheduled to go on day 1, I still, as of the recording time today, do not have the presentation itself, although I do have the outline. So now let's talk about some of the speeches that are going to be presented today. I have one that is based on a process for taking care of a beard. I've got another, which is a cooking related speech for dessert. And I also have a presentation set up for making a savory dish. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of the presentations for today, day 1. The first presentation that we are going to see that is demonstrative in nature comes from Scott. And as you can see, whenever you are in the process of getting ready to play something on Loom, this is what I am going to see. After we get through some of the speeches, I'll probably go back to my Yahoo email account and let you see what it looks like whenever I access your email. This is what happens whenever I open it. Whenever we play any of the presentations in Loom, not only do I hit play, but I make it widescreen. Our first demonstrative speech of the first summer session, how to properly care for a beard. This is Scott, and once we start, we will go widescreen. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Scott Graves, and I am a junior engineering student at SAU Magnolia. People have often asked me in the past, Scott, how do you keep up with having such a voluptuous beard? In this presentation, I will tell you exactly how to properly care for and keep up with a beard. So, some common misconceptions. Shaving your beard does not make it grow back thicker. Most people believe that if they shave their beard, especially when they're young and it's first growing in their teenage years, that it'll grow back longer or thicker. This, unfortunately, is not the case, and many people are unaware of this fact. They have bought in completely to the lie that shaving their beard is the only way to make it grow in fully. Secondly, a beard can keep you from getting a job. This is simply not correct. Now, if this were 20 years ago, then yes, a beard may keep you from getting a job. However, in our modern day and age, a beard is no such issue. I have just recently gotten a job, and as you can see, I have a very full beard. Now, most people also believe that you will have your full beard in by the age of 20. Now, this is not always the case. Your beard will grow in fully at its own pace. Now, while a lot of full beards do come in by 20, you do not have to give up hope if you're past 20 and your beard still hasn't fully grown in. And now the last common misconception is a little bit more complicated, in that beards make your face hot during the summer. Now, this is not exactly true. Yes, your beard can actually cool your face down. It provides shade to your face during the heat of the days, especially during the high sun hours. Now, however, your beard can cause your face to be susceptible to heat rash. This can be fixed by taking a number of steps, from combing out and washing your beard to simply moisturizing your face better. To start off, hygiene is the most important aspect of maintaining and caring for your beard. You need to wash your beard as often as you wash your hair. Right? A dirty beard is a unhealthy beard, and it will cause your face to break out in rashes, which are generally uncomfortable. Now, one of the other important things to do is to comb or brush your beard. My recommendation would be to comb or brush it daily, usually after you wake up in the morning and after you get out of the bath or shower. This can cause your beard to not only look fuller, but it can make it cleaner by clearing out any mist debris. Now, for an optional care, first off is beard oil. Beard oil is an interesting substance in that it moisturizes and exfoliates your hairs in your face. This can cause your beard to not only grow in fuller, but have a fuller looking appearance, and it can cause your beard health to go up drastically. I myself am an avid user of beard oil, using several different brands of beard oil. My most common one is actually this here, Devil's Delight, which is a very, while it is strong beard oil, it is not strong scented, which can be a lot of people's worry about putting oil in their beard. And now lastly is moisturizer. Moisturizer is good for your beard and your face in general. As I said earlier, your beard can cause your face to break out in heat rash if not properly cared for. This can be counteracted by moisturizing your beard and your face with different things such as lotions. One of the key parts of having a great beard is confidence. A great beard requires both product and confidence. A great man once said that. If you're going to have a beard, then you should be proud of it. Proud of everything you're growing out of your face. I would like to thank you all for listening to my speech. If you're going to have a beard, then you should be proud of it. Proud of everything you're growing out of your face. I would like to thank you all for listening to my speech. If you're going to have a beard, then you should be proud of it. Proud of everything you're growing out of your face.
There we go. The challenge is occasionally on Loom whenever you're trying to pause it, and I was trying to do it down here in the corner and it wouldn't let me, so I'm actually going on pause from his recording rather than over in the corner. So we saw the ending of the speech twice. Ordinarily, if we were in a classroom, we would applaud, so I'm going to do the same thing here. Let's go back to full screen and double check his presentation from back to front. One of the things you'll notice with Scott is that he obviously practiced quite a few times because there weren't a lot of issues with vocalics or grammar. I did hear an I did hear a gonna. From a practical standpoint, Scott, probably what I would do is to adjust the webcam a little bit so it is tighter on your face. It's got no bearing on your grade this time, but I'd make the shot a little bit tighter, or possibly lean in closer to the camera itself. But he brings up a relevant point at the end of the demonstration where if you are going to wear a beard, confidence is important. And of course, who would you want to quote on something like that other than the famous Obi-Wan Kenobi from pop culture? You'll also notice that in the bottom right-hand corner, that's where I was trying to pause it, actually from his original recording, where actually I should be doing it, as you can see from the cursor, over on the left-hand side. His presentation is 5 minutes and 22 seconds in length. So let's go ahead now and play it all the way to the end.
I would like to thank you all for listening to my speech.
And he pauses, as I had indicated previously, before actually turning off the webcam. A couple of things that you'll be playing around with as time goes on, whether it be for my class or for any else, is how you are going to use any type of lighting within your dorm room or your home. I've got a ring light attached to my computer monitor, so it is relatively even. As you're well aware, I've been joking about the lighting that is set up directly behind me because I changed the lamps right before the beginning of the term. But when you're looking at Scott, that's something that all of you need to consider as time goes on. If you're doing something on a webcam or doing something on Loom, what does my face look like in the webcam and the lighting? The audio is fine. We can hear him. We can hear him very clearly. And something else that you'll want to consider is the webcam itself. Is it obscuring any of the text? In this particular case, he's got the beard graphic for his final slide, and we can't see the U in thank you. But again, because this is the first day, I will give you quite a bit of slack. Let's go from back to front. There's the eye contact, looking pretty much straight ahead most of the time for confidence being important, including something like beard oil, talking about the relevance of whenever you wash your hair, you should wash your beard. I suppose for most of us that would be common sense, but he brings up a relevant point. You can never assume everyone's going to do something exactly the same way. Depending upon the texture of your beard, sometimes it is going to be smoother, sometimes not. So having beard oil certainly is a relevant graphic. And actually holding it up on the screen is going to be useful as well. Again, most of the time, going from back to front, eye contact consistent all the way through. How you are going to comb your beard, whether it be on the left with a comb or on the right with some type of a specialized beard brush. What type of shampoo you're going to use for the bullet points to either for hygiene, number one, clean your beard, number two, as often as you wash your hair, or three, a dirty beard is an unhealthy beard, and that's certainly true. Continuing to go to the front, common misconceptions. Now keep in mind what he's doing here. Bullet points, relative consistency with the font size, the font color, same thing with the headlines. And then continuing to go to the front, he is always consistent looking at the webcam. Same thing there, still on common misconceptions. And then getting back to the beginning of the presentation, how to properly care for a beard. Let's go ahead and listen to his introduction and then pick up a little bit of his audio during the speech to double check for conversationality, extemporaneous quality, the ability to have a clear, articulate, enunciative style, and how he is wrapping up the speech. Bits and pieces.
Hello, my name is Scott Graves, and I am a junior engineering student at SAU Magnolia. People have often asked me in the past, Scott, how do you keep up with having such a voluptuous beard? In this presentation, I will tell you exactly how to properly care for and keep up with a beard.
So what does he do? Nice bit of humor at the outset, talking about his luscious beard, and then how he's going to care for it. So now let's go to the midpoint of the speech and double check on the extemporaneous and conversational qualities that Scott has.
Now, most people also believe that you will have your full beard in by the age of 20. Now, this is not always the case. Your beard will grow in fully at its own pace. Now, while a lot of full beards do come in by 20, you do not have to give up hope if you're past 20 and your beard still hasn't fully grown in.
He does something that I also do. It's called a verbal vocalic. I don't talk about it a lot. It's got no bearing on your grade, but oftentimes if I'm trying to think of something to say, I will use, as Scott does, now or and. Trying to stay away from an and and any type of vocalic or gonna, wanna, kinda. It's a nice crutch to fall on. In time, you'll get rid of it. From the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you can see he is at the 1 minute 55 mark, and the element of placing his webcam in the bottom right-hand portion of the screen, just a little bit over, but not all the way to the right, is helpful because it is not, for the time being, it is not obscuring any of the text. It's also, from his standpoint, looking at himself in the webcam, and immediately right next to him, he can check on the time. Now let's get to the 3 minute mark.
My recommendation would be to comb or brush it daily, usually after you wake up in the morning and after you get out of the bath or shower. This can cause your beard to not only look fuller, but it can make it cleaner by clearing out any mist debris.
And now let's go toward the end of the presentation. This is the last 45 seconds where he's at beard oil. Keeping in mind that he's over 5 minutes, bottom left, and then over here is his real time in terms of recording. Final 45 seconds.
And your face with different things such as lotions. One of the key parts of having a great beard is confidence. A great beard requires both product and confidence. A great man once said that. If you're going to have a beard, then you should be proud of it. Proud of everything you're growing out of your face. I would like to thank you all for listening to my speech.
And that's his conclusion. So what has he done? Obviously practiced quite a few times and then sent via Loom to my email address what he thought was the best representation of his speech. The video playback that you see is something that all of you should do. In the same way that we might break down sports highlights, you want to break down your own highlights for demonstrative speeches this week, informative speeches next week, persuasive speeches later on, and the last week of the term, the wildcard speeches. From that standpoint that we've talked about on so many occasions. First of all, the content of your speech. Are you being demonstrative? The delivery of your speech. Do you come across in a thoughtful, knowledgeable manner? And are you an authentic public speaker? Do you come across as poised? Are you an authoritative presence on camera? Can we tell, in other words, that you have practiced? And we can from Scott. And then from the aesthetic standpoint, are you telling a relevant visual story with all of the slides? And again, are you trying to remain conversational throughout and extemporaneous, because that's where the conversationality, as you're well aware from the video examples, flow with everything that he's done? And I think for the most part, that's what our first speaker, Scott, has done. When you send me something on Loom, this is what I see whenever I open up the link. And if I want to take Scott's speech and download it, it's very easy for me to take this on Loom and right here, download it to my hard drive, and then possibly upload it to either my website or to my YouTube channel. So that is the first of the presentations that we're going to be looking at today. And to a great degree, for a lot of the materials that we look at during the term, that's how I'm going to break them down. But because Scott was our rhetorical guinea pig, so to speak, the first person that we've seen from this class, during the first summer session of 2022, it's helpful for all of you to think, if Professor Reppert is looking at my speech from all of those standpoints, am I trying to create a positive impression? Am I being demonstrative? Our second speech of the day is a cooking speech, and this one is a dessert. As you can tell, this is a dessert-based presentation. So we will go ahead and get this ready, play it, and go through, especially for the day one people, the same critiquing style in a positive way that we just did for Scott. Our second presentation of the day, that is demonstrative, and here we go.
Hi, my name is Ariana French, and I'll be doing my demonstrative speech on how to make a banana pudding cake. Firstly, this recipe came from my mom, and she got it off of Facebook originally, but as she continued to make it, she started substituting ingredients and making it her own. There are many ways you can make this cake. Like the cake mix, we use box cake mix because it's just how we like it and it's easier for us. But you can also make homemade cake if you prefer that. And you can also put bananas or supplement any of the other ingredients for something that you feel more comfortable with. Firstly, the ingredients and materials. You will need yellow cake mix or banana flavored cake mix. We use the banana flavored cake mix because when we first started making it, we would use yellow cake mix, but we like the banana flavored better. You'll also need cooking served banana cream pudding, an 8 ounce of Cool Whip, Jackson vanilla wafers, and you can use a different type of vanilla wafer, but we like these ones better because it's easier to crumble and it just tastes better than the regular ones. You also need milk, eggs, oil, and water, depending on if you use cake mix or if you make a homemade cake. Because if you make a homemade cake, you'll probably need more than that. But since we're using the cake mix, we just follow the instructions on the back. And you also need a 13x9 cake pan. Okay, firstly, the instructions. Step 1, I found it easier to set out all the ingredients and the materials beforehand that will be used. So that will be all the ingredients, the pan, the wooden spoon, the bowl, pot, whisk, measuring spoons to measure everything out, and also a spatula that's going to be needed. Step 2, preheat oven to temperature on the back of the cake mix. It's usually around 350. And that's what we usually just put it on either way. And then after that, you'll start making the cake mix and follow the instructions on the back using the eggs, oil, and water. And then it'll tell you if you use a whisk, a spoon, or like a mixer. And once you finish that, you'll put the cake in the oven and set it for like 10 to 13 minutes, I think. And when the cake is done, you sit it out and let it cool in the pan. Okay, the next step. After the cake is cooled, you'll get the end of the wooden spoon and poke holes in the cake, like the example picture, like this, so that when you pour the banana pudding, it'll go all the way through. And then the step 4 is to make the cook and serve banana pudding according to the directions on the box. You'll get the pan, and then you put the cook and serve banana pudding in there, and then use, I think, 4 cups of milk, and then cook it on the stove. And then immediately when it's done, you'll pour over the top and spread it out. Make sure it covers all the holes fully So the inside of the cake will be like the banana pudding and you can taste it. When the not the Cool Whip, but the banana spread is fully warmed and cooled off, you'll get the Cool Whip and pour that on top of there and spread it out with the spatula. Depending on how much Cool Whip you like, you can put the whole thing or just half or like a quarter of it. But we'll just put the whole thing over it and make sure it's spread out evenly because it just tastes better to it's like that. And then for the cookies, the vanilla wafers, you'll get like a rolling pin, or you can use your hand and just crumble the cookies inside of the plastic package, and that'll be easier than just getting a Ziploc bag and doing it because we use all the cookies on top of ours instead of just half of it. It tastes way better with all the cookies on there anyway. And then once you crumble the cookies, you'll pour all the crumbled cookies on top of the cake. And if you want to be extra fancy or whatever, put bananas on top. But I don't think it's very good like that. That's how we eat it. We don't eat it with the bananas because it doesn't taste good to us. And then once you're done, enjoy and make sure to refrigerate it because it's just the whipped cream and stuff. Just be sure to refrigerate it when done.
So, those of you who are with us live this afternoon, that certainly is a very tasty way to wrap up the speech with an attractive graphic. And I learned my lesson. Down here on the bottom is where you access the material. Sometimes you can put the timer here on the left-hand side. In the case of Scott, he had it down on the bottom. But let's go ahead and do the same thing with Ariana that we did with Scott, taking a look at her presentation from back to front. And I would tell you the same thing that I had indicated to Scott, that go ahead and adjust the webcam so we are filling it with your face. For the demonstrative speech, as I'd indicated when we were going through his, it's not going to have any bearing on your grade right now, but it's something to consider. I like the fact that you're in the upper right-hand corner because, as you know from yesterday's class session, most of the time, because all of us more than often than not are going to go from either left to right or have materials such as this particular headline centered on a slide, the dead space is usually going to be in the upper right-hand corner, and it's analogous to turning a page. So enjoy, be sure to keep it refrigerated was the last part of the speech. And then before that, a very easy to follow process with the step-by-step instructions, the bullet points. All of this is going to assist in keeping you extemporaneous. Moving back here, always be aware that when you're on camera, it doesn't blink. So try not to touch your face or your eyes. Try to be centered as much as possible during that presentation directly into the webcam, like you are there. Again, very attractive graphic. Many of you have seen these kinds of cakes prepared during the summer where you're filling them. Set out the ingredients, the materials that will be used, preheat the oven. All of that is helpful advice. Same thing here with the ingredients, including the Cool Whip,
Probably
the
need more than
wafers,
that,
anything that
but
is
since
going
we're
to
using the
assist in
cake
helping
mix,
us
we
visualize
just
the
follow the
process
instructions on the back.
and make you
And also
extemporaneous. And then moving toward the first minute of the
the
speech,
banana flavored cake mix.
she is still talking about the process itself. In the first 20 seconds, same thing, how her mother found the recipe on social media. It's always helpful for a title slide to make it as attractive as possible. Always keep in mind that it is also helpful to, as you've seen from previous course videos, not only have your name, but also the course and when it was offered. She's got it set up on the left-hand side, as you can see, with the triple digits for Loom, having everything ready to go. There are some elements that you'll need to work on, specifically okay, and you had a couple of drop G's. All of these are elements that can be improved on with extended practice and watching yourself on video. As we saw with Scott, let's examine her introduction and roughly the first 45 seconds of her presentation.
Hi, my name is Ariana French, and I will be doing my demonstrative speech on how to make a banana pudding cake. Firstly, this recipe came from my mom, and she got it off of Facebook originally, but as she continued to make it, she started substituting ingredients and making it her own. There are many ways you can make this cake. Like the cake mix, we use box cake mix because it's just how we like it and it's easier for us. But you can also make homemade cake if you prefer that, and you can also put bananas or supplement any of the other ingredients for something that.
So just in the first minute of her presentation, if Ariana or anyone else loses their train of thought, pause for just a moment and try to make certain that the ers or the ahs don't come in to the vocabulary. It's just a matter of pausing and then continuing. And also, again, watch very closely about any kind of nervous habits you may have that are showing up on the webcam, such as touching the back of your head or your nose. As I indicated at the outset, Ariana, what you'll also want to do, like with Scott, is to tighten up the webcam so the headroom is basically going to be just a little over your head so we can fill the screen with your face. And that's a matter of experimentation. With some of the informative speeches on Loom that you'll be seeing for next week's preparation time, you'll notice that a lot of people were in this category, going from demonstrating to informing and experimenting not only with additional lighting, but making sure that the shot was tight. But as I indicated, I like the fact that you're in the upper right-hand portion of the screen. We don't have to look for your face. Now, let's go into the middle portion of the speech, like with Scott, and just pick it up in real time.
On the back of the cake mix, it's usually around 350, and that's what we usually just put it on either way. And then after that, you'll start making the cake mix and follow the instructions on the back using the eggs, oil, and water. And then it'll tell you if you use a whisk, a spoon, or like a mixer. And
one of the things that I really haven't talked about as much is to, and those of you who are with me live notice that I'm jotting down some notes, and I am right now. But Ariana also on a couple of occasions has used the term like, L-I-K-E. That's something that also many of you will want to eliminate from your vocabularies during the speech. It doesn't have as much impact on your grade during the first week with vocalics or drop G's, but it's something with the extensive video playback and analysis that all of you should do from a positive standpoint. Think, in Scott's case, nice job in terms of preparing the speech with a beard. Nice job by Ariana on preparing the speech on the cake. Now, how can I take that and ramp it up? How can I take my content and make it cleaner in terms of making my extemporaneous style smoother all the way through my presentation? So any type of articulation or enunciation issues with grammar, such as a like, or anything with vocalic, such as or a drop G, are going to eventually be eliminated from the equation. All of you are going to look back at the best versions of presentation that you're giving me today or tomorrow for demonstrative speeches. By the time we get to the persuasives and the wild cards, you're going to think, wow, I've improved so much in a relatively short period of time. And there's no secret to it. It's a matter of practice. And I can tell from each of our participants so far that you have practiced. Now it's a matter of making everything much smoother and more confident as time goes on. Now let's go to the last minute of her speech and play all of this from 4:17 until the end. Let's just play it until the end in real time.
Pour that on top of there and spread it out with the spatula. Depending on how much Cool Whip you like, you can put the whole thing or just half or like a quarter of it. But we'll just put the whole thing over it and make sure it's spread out evenly because it just tastes better to it's like that. And then for the cookies, the vanilla wafers, you'll get like a rolling pin, or you can use your hand and just crumble the cookies inside of the plastic package, and that'll be easier than just getting a Ziploc bag and doing it, because we use all the cookies on top of ours instead of just half of it. It tastes way better with all the cookies on there anyway. And then once you crumble the cookies, you'll pour all the crumbled cookies on top of the cake. And if you want to be extra fancy or whatever, put bananas on top. But I don't think it's very good like that. That's how we eat it. We don't eat it with the bananas because it doesn't taste good to us. And then once you're done, enjoy and make sure to refrigerate it, because it's just the whipped cream and stuff. Just be sure to refrigerate it when done.
Now, one of the things you'll also want to make sure that you do, Ariana, is to, as you saw with Scott, give an official conclusion. Say thank you or some type of concluding remarks, but making sure that we know that you are completed. And then when you're done, say thank you. And then in the back of your mind, count 1001, 1002, 1003. Look at the camera like you are now, smile, and then pause. Don't stop immediately afterward. Now, what I really do like, and I'm guessing what all of your classmates like, Ariana, is the very attractive graphic that you used to close the presentation, because it shows that you have source credibility as a speaker. These can be your own photos, or you can take them from an online recipe, but it shows, as with some of the other photos, that this particular dessert, especially on a hot, muggy day like what we're encountering right now, is a refreshing treat, but certainly a very attractive way in terms of a visual to end the presentation. You did notice, in her case, she, like many novice public speakers, are going to have some nervous habits. You may not necessarily know, and I'll come back to me for this right now. Some of you may have nervous habits. You never know exactly what to do with your hands. Always keep in mind that once you start, or once you're practicing, play around with the webcam. Where are you located on the screen? If you're using the circular version, which most people do in my public speaking courses, make sure that you manipulate the camera in such a way where most of your face is going to be included on screen. And then whenever you're practicing those versions that we do not see, evaluate yourself. What do you look like? Now, this is something that I've been teasing you about all during the term, whether I should have the torch lights on or whether I should have them off. The older ones that I had for many years had more of a color variation to them. These are clearer and they create somewhat of a glare. But I also have, if I'm in this class, a ring light, which you don't see. So these are the little things that in time, those of you who are going to feel more comfortable on camera as time goes on, you'll want to experiment. What do I look like on camera? What do my graphics look like? Are they set up in such a style where not only am I telling a story that is attractive aesthetically with the slides, but they help me, as I've said on many occasions today only, they help me remain conversational, because from that conversationality is going to flow the ability to be extemporaneous. It starts there. Then you are conversational, likable, knowledgeable, authoritative. Our third presentation of the day is also cooking related for a demonstration. While we're doing this, I should indicate I keep going back to my email, both SAU and Yahoo. I keep checking to see whether or not anyone has sent me something during class. But I believe everything is in my inbox for class today. So this is our third presentation of the day, and this is, as I indicated, also dealing with a cooking topic. And as you know from previous class sessions that I played, cooking speeches and crafting are really appropriate for demonstrations because you're going to the beginning of a process and then going all the way to what you feel is the natural conclusion. And this is a savory dish. Our speaker is in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, and this is our third speech of the day.
Hi, my name is Cornisha Griffin, and today I will be telling you how to make oven roasted pork chops and potatoes. What you will need is a pan, pork chops, potatoes, water, foil, seasonings, the seasonings you want to use, an onion, bell pepper, a knife, a spoon, and a bowl. Cleaning the pork chops can be done many ways. Everyone does it different. What the most common way to do it is rinse them off with water and then let them soak in water. But some people like to cut up lemons and let them soak in water with the pork chops. Some people clean the pork chops with white vinegar. And some people pull off the fat while cleaning it. I don't, but you can if you want. Seasoning the meat. What I use to season the pork chops is lemon pepper seasoning, onion powder, garlic powder, the Cajun Creole seasoning. You don't have to use that one, but I like that one. And I also put seasoning in the bottom of the pan. You don't have to do that either, but I just do. I think it helps with the seasoning a lot. The next few steps is placing the pork chops in the pan. When you place the pork chops in the pan, you begin cutting the potatoes. I cut the skin off of them. You don't have to do that either. You can cook them with the skin on, but I do. It's optional. But it don't matter how you cut the potatoes either, but if you want more seasoning on them, cut them small. Also, make sure you wash them before you place them on top of the pork chops. After that, you cut up an onion and bell pepper. I cut them up in the same bowl because they're both going on the same thing. And also, you can cut them small if you want to. I do because I don't really like onions, but it helps with the seasoning for the pork chops and potato. And bell pepper do too. But you spread them all over the pan. Like, they can be all over the top of the pork chops and potatoes. And I pour a Cajun season and lemon pepper seasoning on top of the potatoes. Also, after that is done, you fill up water halfway into the pan and then put foil on top. And the foil helps keeps the potatoes and the pork chops from getting dried out. After that, you place the pan in the oven and preheat it to 425 and place the pan in the oven and cook it for 2 hours. 1 hour in,
You'll take the pan out of the oven and grab the spoon and like pour some of the juice that the pork chops have made on top of the potatoes so the potatoes don't get dry. Put that back in the oven for the second hour, and when the timer is up, you are done. You can also put a kind of sauce on top of the pork chops and potatoes, like cream of celery or cream of mushroom, or you can even make your own sauce. And if you want more vegetables on it, you can add anything like carrots, anything. And if you need more seasonings on the potatoes, you can add like whatever kind of seasoning you want, but ranch seasoning is recommended for my friend. And if you want any kind of side dish, most people eat them with Texas toast or dinner rolls. Mac and cheese go really well as a side dish also, and string beans as well, or broccoli, asparagus, or anything you want to add. But other than that, you're through and you have your oven roasted pork chops and potatoes. Goodbye.
And that is the end of her presentation. Let's watch the last 30 seconds. Go ahead and pause it. And by the way, I wanted to keep this on the screen for just a moment because what you see at the bottom, and I'm going to double check on the screen that you see in real time. At the bottom of the screen, make sure that you hide that message. That is not coming up from my computer. That's actually coming up on Cornisha's computer. So make certain that before you start your presentation right here, where I've got my cursor directly over hers, make sure that you eliminate this at the bottom. Let's go ahead, go to the end of her speech, and let's go back to the last 30 seconds or so.
Really well as a side dish also, and string beans as well, or broccoli, asparagus, or anything you want to add. But other than that, you're through and you have your oven roasted pork chops and potatoes.
Again, please make certain that you are giving me an official conclusion to the speech and do not cut the video off right at the end. You've built up to a quality conclusion, all of the work that you've done in putting together these presentations. So in this case, savor the moment, which makes sense because she's making something that is a savory dish. Pause, say thank you, look at the camera in a very sincere manner, 1001, 1002, 1003, pause, don't make it abrupt. And I would also say something else, Cornisha. What you want to do when you're recording, if you can, is to make sure you're doing it in a location where there is a little more light because it is challenging to see you in the bottom of the screen. In fact, it was rather humorous on my part whenever we get to the last part of the speech because you've got your timer in the same way that Scott had his on the far right-hand side. You've got your timer here on the left. So we've got your timer, and I'm also competing with down on the bottom with the timer that I am using for the download itself. But let's go ahead, as we have with everyone else, and examine her speech from back to front. In this case, these are the oven instructions. Where's her eye contact? She's looking at the screen. And then she's going back and forth. Let me make sure that's in pause as we continue to move from back to front. I would say for all of you, probably a good idea if you're using Loom to experiment with putting your face on the top of the screen. I think that's just something that all of you need to seriously consider. Got no bearing on your grades, but whenever I am going back and forth like this, I'm cutting off part of the bottom of the screen. And feel free to experiment with the size of the slides as opposed to the size of your face on the webcam. And you'll notice that with one of the presentations that I showed you during the first week of class with Jocelyn Keller, and one of her presentations that I was just showing you as a quality example of either content or delivery or visuals, where her face actually looked more like a photo frame, and it took up a large part of the left-hand corner of the screen. And then on the right-hand side, her graphics, I believe it was for the persuasive speech on why is it important not to procrastinate, her slides were a little bit smaller. So here we are moving back, and you can see she's making a conscious effort to remain extemporaneous. Same thing here on when you're cutting the onion. And there she's looking directly at the camera when she's discussing, quote, the next few steps. Same thing here, sneaking a peek down for seasoning the meat, cleaning the pork chops. Nice graphics all the way through in terms of telling a story visually. And then this is what is also helpful, what you will need, because you don't necessarily have to mention them all word by word, term by term. But for all of you, filling the time was not any type of an issue. So let's go back to the beginning of the speech, as we did, first of all, with Scott, and second with Ariana. Let's take a look at the first 45 seconds or so of Cornicia's speech, how she's setting up the topic, what she's using for graphics, and are there any elements of grammar that need to be worked on, whether it be vocalics, ers, ums, us, gonas, those types of things. Here we go.
Hi, my name is Cornicia Griffin, and today I will be telling you how to make oven roasted pork chops and potatoes. What you will need is a pan, pork chops, potatoes, water, foil, seasonings, the seasonings you want to use, an onion, bell pepper, a knife, a spoon, and a bowl.
And then as she transitions into her next point, something that all of you need to think about in the same way that we saw Ariana do it with preparing the cake is if there are any personal stories that you want to throw in along the way to give it more of an identifiable touch, that's certainly appropriate. In the same way that Cornicia could do that here, or Scott's talking about with a speech, it makes you identify with the audience that much better. Let's go to the middle part of the speech and pick it up.
The next few steps is placing the pork chops in the pan. When you place the pork chops in the pan, you begin cutting the potatoes. I cut the skin off of them. You don't have to do that either. You can cook them with the skin on, but I do.
Now that's exactly what I was talking about, where Cornicia actually gives some personal examples of how she prepares the dish, which is good. But again, Cornicia, please make certain that right here, where you've got the Loom advertisement at the bottom of the screen, in the future, hide that notation. And also, you probably want to double check your light source for the webcam. So there is a little bit more light that is showing up on the screen. Also, as I mentioned a moment ago, all of you experiment with the placing of your face in a different location, maybe on the top hand portion of the screen, either right or left side would certainly be appropriate. Some of you also look very closely at the printing on her shirt. I'm going to move the cursor and hopefully the timestamp will go away. Once it does, and it has, if you look very closely, you can tell that the camera is in the reverse mode because the text is showing up backwards. So always double check your webcams to make certain that you're not getting a reverse image, because it looks like what we're getting with her is a mirror image. Most of us have obviously not seen her before, so we don't know that. But always double check, or if it is in reverse image, probably a good idea to wear some type of shirt that doesn't have printing on it, so we can't tell it's actually backwards. We're at the 3:35 point. Let's just go ahead to a little after 4, pick up the audio, and watch and listen to the rest in real time.
Or you can even make your own sauce. And if you want more vegetables on it, you can add anything like carrots, anything. And if you need more seasonings on the potatoes, you can add like whatever kind of seasoning you want, but ranch seasoning is recommended for my friend. And if you want any kind of side dish, most people eat them with Texas toast or dinner rolls. Mac and cheese go really well as a side dish also, and string beans as well, or broccoli, asparagus, or anything you want to add. But other than that, you're through and you have your oven roasted pork chops and potatoes. Goodbye.
And that's the end of her speech. Now again, please make certain that you wait, because I am doing that for the end of the speech, and you're cutting it, all of you guys are cutting it off, or a couple of you are cutting it off too soon. Again, let the moment savor itself, then go ahead, wrap up the speech, but don't cut it off right away. That's what I like right there at the end. We're all happy that the presentations are through, and you're smiling. Let everyone know that. Let your personality shine through on the webcams. And as you're going to be noticing during the month, the more that you do this, the more you feel comfortable watching yourself in a critical way, but in a positive fashion, not negative. I don't believe in that, as you're well aware. It's going to become second nature to work the camera ethically to your advantage. So I'll leave Cornisha smile up on the screen while I indicate there are some issues verbally that you'll need to work on. I heard a couple of instances of like, I referred to that earlier, and I also heard wanna on a couple of occasions. Be aware, all of you, of like, wanna, gonna. Not as many vocalics here, which is nice to see, but all of these things are elements with which you have to be aware of. So those are the presentations that I have received for today. I didn't receive all of the presentations. Please make certain that you are double checking, because I always look at these in real time. If any of you had any kind of an issue, I will accept them for tomorrow. But from that point on, if I receive anything late, out of fairness to everyone else, I will grade it, but I will also dock it, because it's very important in terms of time management that we stay on schedule. But those are the speeches that I received prior to today. I actually have one more, which is an outline, and this person, and I'll show you, this person indicated that they were going to send me the video version, and as of right now, I don't have it. Some of you are sending me emails, and this is from someone who was at the doctor's office today, so that is something that obviously cannot be helped. If any of you have any kind of issue where you have to go to the doctor, or there's a problem with the computer, please let me know. I'm certainly amenable to those types of things. This being an online class, life is going to intrude. So as you just saw, I'm going to go to my SAU email account to double check to see if anyone has sent me something there, but my strong preference is to have you send data to my Yahoo address, and I'll put that up on the screen right now. That's what I was originally referring to before we saw someone who was at the doctor's today. This is my Yahoo email account for the speech class. This is what I received, these emails for today. As you can see, some of them were sent to my SAU address. This is an outline, someone indicating they were uploading their demonstrative speech. I can tell you, as of class time, I still do not have it, but I can show everyone what your outline looks like, keeping in mind that whenever I preview this, it's never going to look exactly the same whenever you preview something in an email. But this was the demonstrative presentation that was sent to me, and I'm going to make it widescreen for a reason. This does not have the name of the person on the title slide. You will also want to make certain that if you incorporate any types of video clips, and you'll see this in just a moment, when you get to this point and you are dropping and dragging a link, you go to the end where the number 4 is and click enter. Once you do that, it will be underlined and the video becomes interactive. Right now, if I click on this in the PowerPoint mode, there's no guarantee that I would automatically have access to the video. So whenever you're incorporating any type of interactivity, whether it be this on a PowerPoint or on Google Slides, double check to make certain that you go to the end of whatever the last digit is and click enter, and then it will underline, meaning it's interactive. Same thing here for this slide. Same thing here. I do appreciate the fact that you've got a minimum of 3 bits of interactivity, because for a topic as important as this, you want to make certain that you get the facts right. And the instructional videos for topics such as cardiopulmonary resuscitation is important. Now, the other thing I would do here is to use a journalistic term, you're burying the lead. The CPR should be up here. CPR and your name. We need to know who you are. And that's why it's important for all of you to double check the videos and also double check the website to make absolutely certain that you are following what I consider the proper procedure or protocol. I told you before that on occasion people don't have access to a webcam or it doesn't work. I want to play a speech that is available on my website that is listed as demonstrative speech audio from the past year and a half, in case any of you find yourselves in that position. So let me sneak this in. This is on the website. A presentation that is demonstrative speech audio from the fall of 2020, how to keep a healthy throwing arm. Again, audio only. On the website, we've got outlines, we've got videos, but we also have some audio examples. And for the record, I wanted to play at least one.
Hello everyone, my name is Kayla Collins and today I'm going to be doing my demonstrative speech on how to keep a healthy throwing arm. So before you can really get started, of course the materials you're going to need are your glove, a softball, and a throwing partner, or some sort of net can be used, or just some sort of object to stop the ball that you are throwing. So to get in good preparation before your workout or your throwing program that you want to be doing, you want to make sure that you get in a good full body stretch to prevent an injury, and you also want to get in a full good body stretch if you have an injury already, so you can make sure that the muscle tissue is warmed up and ready to go. And you also want to make sure that you are staying hydrated, because you never know how much energy you are really using and putting out in the workout that you are doing. To begin, you want to make sure that there's a good distance between you and your partner that means is you don't want your partner to be too far back where you're putting unnecessary stress on your back, on your shoulder, on your elbow, whatever the case may be. You just don't want to start too far back, but you also do not want to start too close to where you're throwing the ball too hard at one another, or too close to where you don't have enough reaction time to catch the ball that's being thrown at you. And also you want to make sure that before you throw the ball that your partner is always paying attention. And I know that sounds silly. Sometimes we just get caught up in other things, so we just need to make sure that our partner is always aware that the ball is coming towards them. To help have a good and accurate throw, you want to make sure that you have a good grip on your ball. You want to make sure that your fingers are along the seams so you can have more control on where you want your ball to go. This is a big deal, especially if you are an outfielder and the grass is wet. You want to make sure that you have a good grip on the seams, so like I said, you have more control on where you want your ball to go. Along with having a good grip on the ball, you also want to make sure that you have good mechanics. With that being said, you want to make sure you know your shoulder strength, you want to know your elbow strength, so that you're not overdoing it and causing bodily harm that could have been prevented. And as an outfielder, you obviously have the longest throw on the field, so you want to make sure that when you throw, you are following your throw and you're stepping where you want your ball to go. For example, if you want the ball to go straight, obviously you need to step straight, because if you're trying to throw your ball to your target, which is right in front of you, and you step to your right, your ball is eventually going to peel off and miss to your right, and vice versa. On the left, if you go to step straight, but you go to the left instead, your ball is going to miss to the left instead of hitting your target. So the more accurate step you have going straight towards your target, the closer that your throw is going to be and more accurate it's going to be. The recovery process is just as important as the beginning. When you're getting ready for your preparation, you want to make sure that after your workout, whether you've been throwing or catching, hitting, anything, you just want to make sure that you get another good body stretch in to get your muscles relaxed and cooled down. You don't want to just sit and not do anything when you're done, so just make sure that you get in a good stretch after your workout also. And it's also a great idea to ice your shoulder, your elbow. Whether it's hurting or not is just a good idea, because that keeps the inflammation down, along with things like tendonitis also. So just a little conclusion recap for you and ways to keep a healthy and strong arm. Like I said and exaggerated, it is very important to always stretch before and after throwing. You always want to make sure to stay hydrated, because like I said, you never know how many calories or how much energy is being wasted throughout the workout that you're doing. So you always want to make sure that you have fluids in your body to prevent dehydration. And you always want to pay attention to your partner when throwing. Make sure that they are ready to receive the ball that you were throwing. And like I said at the beginning, just want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch. Thanks.
One of the things that you notice from looking at her presentation is this icon, which means that there is audio. That's the speaker and the sound emanating from the speaker. So we know that this is a PowerPoint with audio. And again, I've had people do that before if they did not have a webcam on their computer, because some people don't, or it was broken. But notice the nice, clean storytelling style that she has here. Nothing calls attention to itself in terms of being sloppy. Everything is nice and neat, whether it is the conclusion recap, the recovery period with a couple of bullet points, and the ice pack, the good mechanics, and she's throwing in personal stories, having done this before with her experience in sports, and then how to begin. So you don't necessarily need a lot of data on a slide to be effective. And in this case, the preparation, a generic photo of young ladies getting prepared for athletic activity, Gatorade, water down at the bottom. And again, we can tell it's audio because of the speaker and the audio that's coming from the speaker. And before preparation, the materials that are going to be needed, and also the title slide. Now, this is something that is an appropriate title slide for a course like this. How to keep a healthy throwing arm, and then your name, and then the course, and then the demonstrative speech. Now, depending upon what term we're in, I may emphasize this more, I may emphasize this less. Obviously, the most important thing is your delivery, but everything goes together, the content, delivery, and visuals, as you know very well by now, in one cohesive package. And then there's one more presentation on my website that is a video that I want to sneak in. I told you a few days ago that there was one format that I really wasn't necessarily certain of the way in which this was recorded. And it's right here. This was recorded from a format, I'm still not certain exactly where it came from, but it was Philly cheesesteak sloppy joes. And it formats a little bit smaller, but I'll go ahead and sneak this in before the end of class.
My name is Yasmin Malone, and I will be talking about how to make Philly cheesesteak sloppy joes. The ingredients you will need to make this is salt, pepper, ground beef meat, ketchup, buns, sister sauce, bell peppers, onions, mushrooms, provolone, brown broth, cornstarch, and butter. The first thing you do in this case is season your meat. Now, it doesn't matter what you season your meat on or what you season your meat with. I just did it on my kitchen counter, and I used salt and pepper. And some people use Tony sauce, which I have before, and it tastes just as good. Well, when you get done, you can begin cooking your meat. So you begin stirring it, or you can just let it sit and cook. If you let it sit and cook and turn brown, you can begin chopping your bell pepper, onions, and mushrooms up. It kind of speed up the process, so you won't be just waiting on one thing to get done. Once your meat gets done cooking, you pull it into a drainer. A drainer is a container that has holes in it to drain the grease off your meat. While it's draining, you can begin sauteing your onions, mushrooms, bell peppers, and butter. It doesn't matter if you use the spray butter or the stick butter. While it's sauteing, you can be mixing your brown broth and cornstarch together. Once your bell peppers, onions, and mushrooms are done sauteing, you can pour your meat back into the pan. Now, it doesn't matter how long you let them saute, but I let mine saute until my onions begin turning brown a little. So once you add your meat back into the pan, you can add your brown broth starch, add your ketchup and your sister sauce. Stir it all up together, mix it well, and it will start thickening on its own while it's cooking. The last step is to cut up your cheese. Add your cheese into the mixture and stir it and let it cook, and it will become thicker. It will become not confusing, but a little frustrating, but it's worth it. Now, adding butter on your buns and toasting it is optional, but if you ask me, it gives another flavor to the sloppy joe. And I use the spray butter. I use it on my bell peppers, onions, and mushrooms, and on my buns, and it helps a lot. Now, this is a walkthrough on how everything is made. Here I am cutting up cutting up the onions. Here go my bell peppers. You want to take the seeds out, all the white stuff in the inside, take it out well and clean. Like this. Once I started sauteing all of that together, I realized it wasn't enough. There's not a certain amount, but I guess it goes based off how much meat you have in your pan. My brown broth and my cornstarch. It's both the same, one just have more than the other. And I call this sister sauce because that's what I grew up on calling it.
So that's the end of her speech. Now let's go ahead and see if that recycles, and it does. Let me mute the audio and just play it in real time. I wanted to include Yasmin on one of our official course videos because she did a really nice job. Her personality comes through, really like the speech, very colorful, the storytelling ability comes through. But two things. I'm not sure whether or not she sent this via her phone because I intentionally made the graphic here a little bit bigger because it starts to, for lack of a better term, almost starts to pixelate. So watching it in this format is helpful. But when we get to this point, whenever you actually see how it's made, that's really the enjoyable part of the speech. Not only does her personality come through with her delivery when she's giving an audio version of the speech in the same way that we just saw from Kayla and heard with how to throw properly, but in this case, we have both her doing audio for the presentation and then doing what amounts to, in television terms, a voiceover with video of the process. So I thought she edited this together nicely. I wish I could get it in a bigger format so it didn't become as blurry as it was, but she did a really nice job with that, for even though I have it listed as demonstrative speech video because she's actually on there. There's no webcam, so to speak, included on Loom in the same way that up here we had the demonstrative speech audio for Kayla's presentation on keeping your throwing arm healthy. And I should indicate there's a very good speech right next door, a demonstrative speech video on poor man's pie that Lexi presented, I believe, yeah, during the same term in the same class. On one of her speeches, I'm not sure which, Lexi's cat winds up in the webcam someplace in the upper reaches of the screen. But all of this material that you can access, I'm doing it from Google Drive, obviously you would be doing it from the website, are very helpful to see, as we come back to me for just a moment, how you can improve. And with the presentations that we watched today, one dealing with the beard, a couple of others dealing with cooking, that's exactly the way that you should analyze yourself. You get done with the take and be very critical in a positive way, looking at yourself on the webcam, and then checking to make certain that as much as possible you are being extemporaneous and conversational. Are those bullet points, are those graphics, are those visuals, are your personal stories coming through where you are relatable, likable, knowledgeable, and thoughtful as a speaker? All of that does matter when you're putting it into the package. And how do you look on camera? Now, let me show you something real quick. I was talking about how sometimes you have to adjust the lighting. This is my ring light. Now watch. All of that is going to come into play, whether it be during this class or whether you're on FaceTime, whether you're doing something for a job interview before graduation. All of the accoutrements, all of the background information is going to make you that much more effective as a communicator in the long run. Before we conclude the proceedings for the day, I want to go to Blackboard and remind you of the scheduled speakers for day 2. And this is in the student preview mode on Blackboard. My day 2 speakers tomorrow are Jones, Kemp, Martin, Pearson, Reyna Garcia, Vickers, and Wright. Anyone who was having an issue sending me their presentation today, and the person now I'm thinking of is Easter, because as you noticed, we had the CPR outline, but I still don't have the video. Any of the rest of you who had any kind of an issue, or the young lady who was at the doctor, and you saw that from my SAU email address, please make certain that I get the speeches by no later than 11:30 or 11:45 tomorrow. I probably will not spend as much time breaking those down as I did with the ones that you saw today, but it's just so helpful to critique yourself in a manner in which a professor would. How can I take all of the material for my particular topic, make it as interesting as possible, make it as visually interesting as possible, and how can I use the webcam if I'm on Loom, placing it or experimenting in different parts of the screen to maximize my overall visual acuity. And that brings us back to this particular area on Blackboard. We'll make that bigger. At the course syllabus, a reminder one more time that down here at the supplemental information area of the syllabus, please, I strongly prefer that my Yahoo address is where you send information. You can go to my website, you can go to Twitter. I'll check Twitter real quick before we leave class today, because I'm always sending out shout outs on social media or information. So let me put my Twitter feed up for all of you in case that's something that you would be interested in examining. On Twitter, what I did after class yesterday was the first day demonstrative speeches, and what you saw from Essence was the example that I sent out on Loom, and that's what I did for demonstrative speech topic selection 48 hours ago before class on Tuesday. My guess is I am going to go back to the Heat vinyl speech that was presented during the fall intersession of 2020 for the example that I send out, and then possibly before the term is up, I will send shout outs to you guys on social media. But for the most part during the summer, I'm going to go to my YouTube channel or my website for materials dealing with courses gone by. Click on the hashtag, go to latest, and for some reason it's not showing up. Let me try that one more time. And it's not. So that obviously is an issue that is on the social media platform itself. But most of the stuff that I've been sending out recently on my Twitter feed is for this class, including what you see when you immediately access it for this week. And this particular notation will change week by week, but that's my social media feed for Twitter. We're off to a positive start today. Always keep in mind that when you're in a basic public speaking course, the first thing that you need to think of, obviously, is the topic. Demonstrative, followed by informative, followed by persuasive, followed by wildcard. Then you become familiar with putting together the slides. Am I going to use Microsoft PowerPoint? Am I going to use Google Slides? Am I going to experiment with Canva? And then I'm going to experiment with Loom. Where am I going to place my webcam? What webcam style am I going to use? How am I going to incorporate that? And then whenever I record the take, how many takes am I going to record? Where am I on time management? Where am I in terms of what Professor Reppert says like a mantra? The content of the speech, the delivery, the visuals, how all of those are going to blend together for an effective overall presentation. So I am a patient man. And the reason that I can identify with all of you is this. When I was an undergraduate at North Dakota State University, shameless plug over my left shoulder. How many professors teach with a North Dakota State University lunch bucket in the backdrop? And over my other shoulder it's very dark in terms of the color. It's a green NDSU mug, and right next to it is UNLV, where I went to graduate school. But at North Dakota State University, I took my basic public speaking course during the summer. So I can identify with all of you in terms of time management. I look at the presentations today from our speakers and look at how you can improve. I don't look at it from a negative standpoint. I always think, how can we take that raw data, and all of you are raw in terms of public speaking research, delivery, and visuals right now, and refine it in real time. I see good things in the speakers that we saw today. I see good things with the topics that you've been providing. Now it's just a matter of working to your individual stylistic approaches. Some of you are going to be more text-based in being an effective public speaker. Some of you are going to rely more on visual cues. But as time goes on, always remember, this week you're demonstrating a process. So let's focus on this week. Those of you who spoke today can sit back and relax, watch your videos, because as I said at the outset of today's course session, you're my content creators for 8 of the 19 class sessions. So let's keep up the improvement, let's keep up the practice, and we will continue tomorrow with day 2 of demonstrative speeches. This video, which is going to be listed as session 6 for demonstrative speech, day 1, should be posted in real time in about 1 hour. As we conclude class in real time, it is exactly 2 o'clock. As for SPCH 1113, Introduction to Public Speaking, demonstrative speech day 1 in the books, demonstrative speech day 2 coming up tomorrow, the only Friday that we meet. That concludes the recording session for today.